Welcome to today's talk session. My name is Deidre Moss, and I am the host of Can We Talk? I'm an educator, motivator, and a talk connoisseur. As we approach the Bahamas general elections, Can We Talk is doing our part to share insight on this process. So we started with our Can We Talk politics series that began on our platform, and we highlighted several candidates from various parties who sought to share their plans and their platforms. Today, we welcome back Kareem Hanchell, the independent candidate for Garden Hills, and he is welcome back to our platform to help us dissect this topic. So at this time, I will pass the virtual mic to him to have him introduce himself.
Okay, very good. Good evening, Mrs. Deidre. Good evening, Bahamas, and to all those that are watching. I want to send a special good evening and thank you for tuning in. My name is Kareem Hanchell. I am the independent candidate for Garden Hills. Um, this is my second time running. My first time running for politics was in 2017 as an independent. I ran in the Golden Isles area. That was what I consider my training wheels period. This time I'm running in the Garden Hills constituency, which I was born and raised in. I'm actually I'm from Garden Hills. So for about all my life I lived in Garden Hills. I still have a lot of friends and a lot of connections in Garden Hills. And so that's where I have my base. And that's where I now want to represent. I want to represent the people of Garden Hills as a young man, 38, to be 39 tomorrow. September 11 is my birthday. And so this is an awesome experience for me because if I win, that would be the best birthday gift any person could give. And so I'm really excited about this time because me and my wife, we put together a very strategic campaign. As you know, she's been financing my campaign just through um, the fencing company, Fencing Master, and that has been the engine that has been pushing me into the various communities and being able to speak to as many persons about my interest and my focus as a representative.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction. You didn't tell me you were in September. I celebrated a few days ago. So
Oh
you're in
yeah,
good company. You're in
so
good
he's a
company.
Virgo too. Yeah, we Virgo. Yep.
So, brief overview of our topic. So, in this session, we want to dissect our general elections. We live in a country where, political season, we kind of get general election fever. Okay. So, the general elections has been slated for September 16th, 2021. And we want to talk about the political environment that we are currently in. Okay. And so, with that, we will get into our talk. So, Mr. Hancho, can you tell us what have been your inspiration? I know in your introduction you talk a little bit about coming out of the community of Garden Hills, but what have been your inspiration in presenting yourself as a candidate in this upcoming election?
Um, when I took the decision to immerse myself in educating myself on politics in the Bahamas, okay, one of the first things I came in contact with was, and it was sad for me at such a older age at 33 to now come into this preamble. So now here am I now engaging into party politics. At the time at 28, I was very active in, I guess it moved into community South Beach, and I had now engaged the MP at the time. This was 012, around 012. Yeah, I had engaged the MP at the time, Cleola Hamilton, and that was when I wanted to now kind of get involved. Okay. And so when I was introduced to the preamble, it gave me a clear description of what it means to be Bahamian and what are the do's and what are the don'ts. Who we are, how we're supposed to be treated, what type of life we were supposed to be living, who we supposed to become and act as a people. And so when I started to identify myself as true Bahamian, I started to recognize that a lot of things that was going on in the country was a violation to our constitutional rights, to our preamble, and it doesn't speak or represent us as a people. And the persons that we continuously elect over the years, because my first conscious election was in 1992 when Hubert Ingram won, and kind of then go past high school, he won again. Now Perry Christie came into power in 2012. That was a portion. That was a segment of my life when some things happened. Then 2012, 2007, after them came back to power, some things happened. Then 2012, PLP came into power, and at this time, I was a more older guy and more focused. Yes, was out of university, started and established a few businesses. One of them specifically was created just to monitor the government decisions. And so for me, collecting evidence and collecting data in relations to decisions that are made in the parliament and why and what is the role of persons now vying for representation and what we as constituents and voters should expect from them. And at the end of 5 years, do we get them? Do we get what they promise? And who get what? And then also when we look at how they show interest in the people, generally, like now you find that every political party, every candidate aspiring to political office or public office is now campaigning. So 4 years pass, we struggling as a country and as a government and as citizens, and then now come into election, all of a sudden now we could find and create these temporary jobs. I think now for me, that was not the foundation, or that was not what I wanted to be a part of anymore. I didn't want to be a part of the voter who put persons in, expecting them to make a difference or to make changes in my life, and then come to find out they continuously disappoint us. So I decided to now throw my foot or my hand in the race. Now, my position based on the average or ideal candidate generally would have backing or background. Generally they'd have some inheritance, they come from a rich family, or they would have known.
Hold on a second. We're gonna get into that. So let's talk about your plans and your platform.
Mhm.
Can you share what is your platform? What are some of your plans
Well,
for Garden Hills?
let's put this in perspective. I want persons to understand that before I was a fence businessman trading fence products and services, I was a business developer or business consultant. Okay. I worked in business consultancy in the Bahamas for about now close to 12 to 15 years. I started very young, assisting businesses, persons. My goal or my focus when I got into business development was to focus on startups, persons that generally would have a vision or an idea and need assistance in now moving their idea or their vision through the phases. So there are phases that one has to undergo when they want to achieve or take their vision from the mind to the paper, from the paper to research and development, from research and development to launch, from launch to operation, operation to recovery or expansion. And so these are the aspects that I did when I developed my community or my constituency plans that I've drafted from 2017 and continue to work on them. And so with that in mind, I want persons to understand that the first thing that I wanted persons or gardeners to do or for us to establish, because there are multiple things or things would be going, a lot of things would be turning at the same time. So for one way, on one avenue, I, as an MP, working with the constituency now, provided that I'm elected, is to one, establish a council of gardeners, which represents a member would represent a polling division. There are 12 polling divisions in gardeners, and I feel that in creating proper communication protocols, I have to now establish the council. The council focus would be now to work with me in providing and reaching out to their community, which is a region. So every polling division covers a specific region within the bigger region of Garden Hills. And so now establishing council will now focus on that. Secondly, we would then look to establish a cabinet, okay, an external mirror cabinet or shadow cabinet, which will now work in relations with the local council in providing data, which is very essential, feedback. What we find happening is there's not sufficient or proper procedures or systems in place to create communication. So we have a lot of communication gaps within the society or within the constituency. This is what the local government, along with the council, is going to bridge. A lot of the grievances that generally is experienced within the communities, that is very important. Persons will have outlets that they'll be able to express and vent and allow me as the politician or MP of Garden Hills to now provide proper, clear, factual communication to Parliament and in hopes that now a government, whomever that may be, chosen by the people, will now be able to assist me and Garden Hills in meeting our needs from a governmental level. Outside of the government responsibility to constituents, my focus is to ensure that the infrastructure for ownership is in place. One of the things that we don't have is we don't own our financial service industry. Garden Hills nor any constituency has ever developed or members of parliament have gone in and established a constituency-owned bank. Okay. There are existing banks. And like I say, the Garden Hills, one of the pros of owning a bank is you're able to receive dividends from your bank. Right now, everybody that if they're not a shareholder in one of the financial institutions, they're not receiving dividends, so they are a client or they are a customer to this bank. So persons that are now shareholders in Commonwealth Bank, persons who are in shareholders in Royal Bank and all the Scotia Bank, they are getting dividends from the accumulation of interest that they now charge for services that they provide persons in need of banking. That is what I want gardeners to own. Take control of your financial economy. We need, in order for us to build the economy or change the economy, we have to own the economy. We have to own the bank. Okay? So that is what we're going to now push forward to. Now, this bank is going to be very pivotal in structuring loans for businesses, any revenue generated programs. That is very instrumental in generating interest for this bank, because it's very important that we invest capital to turn into profits. We have now, we be in full control of controlling mortgages. So I would be able to identify persons and gardeners that may have mortgages in arrear or need mortgages, and we able to now suffice that need through the bank, our own bank. Okay. We're talking about educational loans. We're talking about renovations. We're talking about construction. We're talking about opening up business for business loans. Anything that the bank generally does for a person in helping them to develop themselves is what we're going to do. The difference in between our bank and Bank of the Bahamas is we're actually going to see a return from the bank, just like how Commonwealth Bank does see a return, their shareholders, just like our Royal Banking does see a return. Now that we have the bank, now the goal is the assess. During all of this that we're doing is going to be done within the first 30 to 60 days of me entering office. I have a lot of work to do, okay? Whilst we're now establishing, we're putting together teams to establish these various components, we're now going to now execute our assessment initiative. It is very important that every person in Gardeners that is over the age of 18, who's over the age of 18 and also owns a home, we assess them to determine exactly what it is that we can assist them with in terms of transitioning them. If they're unemployed, how we're going to assist them to help them get self-employed. If they're employed, how we're going to assist them in getting self-employed. If they're self-employed, how we're going to assist them in recovering their business if they're having challenges, or how are they going to expand their business if they're doing well and looking to expand their business. So in these avenues or these attributes are going to allow us to create more opportunities, more work for gardeners. Okay. Increasing the income levels at Garden Hills now allows us to do more. Okay, that's my focus. Trade. Now that we have the bank, now that we have the assessments and we know exactly what persons will be doing and where they will be going, because now with the assessments, persons are able to now get a business plan draft. During the assessments, persons, just like I had declared, persons are able to figure out where they are financially, and then they're able to determine a business, and within the business assessment and plan, able to now have a roadmap to achieving their goals. The fourth thing that I'm going to establish in my first 30 to 60 days is, as an alumni of a university, a U.S. university, I went to Eastern Michigan University. I graduated my business administration, bachelor's in business administration, where I specialized in computer information systems. And so, as my wife and I have always discussed, going digital, becoming system dependent versus people dependent is very important, pivotal in transforming Gardeners into the 21st century and forward. Okay. Being adopted by my university, because education is key. I also want to be able to establish an educational program platform that we target kids as young as within their cognitive thinking. We're talking about as young as 5 and 6. Okay, where we're tailoring programs to now allow kids to now learn how to think for themselves. We talk about critical thinking. We're talking about not just regurgitating information, but being able to absorb information, understand this information, and then relay this information in their own way for others to understand. We talk about university. We're talking about exchanges, because now with being able to establish a relationship with my university, and also partnering and tailoring partnerships with University of the Bahamas and other educational institutions in the Bahamas, as well as creating a campus and a recruiting office in Garden Hills. This allows us to now to get the international assistance we need. We're talking about tourism. We're talking about medical. We're talking about all sorts of things. We're talking about natural resources, studying our elements. We're talking about creating these initiatives and creating the blueprints that we will need, finding our challenges, getting persons educated on what we need to move Garden Hills forward first. Because what persons get to understand is, I'm not looking to lead a country in this tenure. I'm only looking to lead a constituency. Okay.
Yeah, and I hear you talk about, I mean, in your first 30 to 60 days. So, you plan to hit the ground running, sorry, because you talk about business development, you talk about financial development, you talk about trade, you talk about digital development and education. And so you definitely gonna have to
We
hit the
also
ground
talk
running.
about we also talk about renewable energy, because we always see, I studied renewable energy. I used to fly a consultant over from the US to study renewable energy. I was working on a pilot for portable power back in 2011, 2012. I took the pilot to the government to show them the prototype, and it was working. I paid to get the prototype working and invest in the knowledge base to understand the technology and to then train. So I was able to develop that. But unfortunately, because the goal at the time was to take it so big that we wanted to assemble generators locally where persons could actually train and become certified generator assemblers, and then be able to sell these generators to third world countries and also locally for persons who may be in need of essential power and portable power in event of emergencies. So when we experience hurricanes, blackouts, and different things where there's a need to keep our essential power circuitries alive, such as our phone, maybe a fan, light, a lamp, certain things that you generally would need in order to keep the basic necessities going. And this is what our focus was, me and my wife, and at the time when we was investing our monies in. Unfortunately, they closed the door to renewable energy. So now as an MP, I want to revisit that plan to now convert, if not all, every home in Gardens to renewable energy. The government has
Awesome,
something.
awesome. So
I want to
you
get
gotta hit
paid.
you so let's look at this. Let's go back to this now. So there's business development, financial development, trade, the digital development, digital transformation slash digital development, education, and renewable energy. And you
Yeah.
want to get this done in your first 30 to 60 days. So you're going
The
to
infrastructure we're talking about, remember now,
infrastructure.
there's
Yeah,
phases to this.
right.
What I have is my plan. Me coming into office is now me calling within the 30 to 60 days, calling my community together to share.
Okay.
That's what the
All right.
assessment for. At the end of 60 days, I would have done now being able to complete a full-scale report outlining exactly what my community has to offer in relations to the percentage of unemployment, the percentage of employment, the percentage of self-employment, the percentage, the educational level in my community, the predominant education level in my community, the focus on marital status, how many persons are single parents, how many persons are married, how many persons are homeowners, how many persons are renting. All of this is information that I can compile and create now a blueprint or plan forward, a strategic plan in order to now fix any issues that we find from the assessment. So because by December, we would have done now start to begin implementing the plan. So anything that relates to training, opening invitations to training, we already have all our training programs available. We already have all of our the way we will be training, because it's the digital era. So most of the training, as I've done in the past in my private life, I've done a lot of online training. I was very instrumental in training in network marketing. Financial literacy is one of specifically a financial literacy network marketing program, which teaches people about online banking, online business, trade, cryptocurrency, all these different things that you now start to see emerging as far as cryptocurrency, digital currency. Because sand dollar, I want to be trading, I want to be leading in trading in sand dollar. Okay. I want that
Okay,
to be.
so let's talk about the political environment. I think you express a major plan for the community in your constituency, and I want to thank you for sharing that. Let's talk about the political environment. I want to shift us a little bit. When you survey the political environment, when you look around you, like I said, we're moving into general elections, and sometimes we get general elections fever. Sometimes we get election fever, let me say. So when you look at the political environment that we're in, what thoughts come to your mind?
I can be honest. I just think we just need a change, because from what I do, and I'm not doing traditional way of governance or campaign or political. Okay, what you find for the last two elections, let's just go as far as the last two elections. The PLP came in, they campaigned on certain transparency and accountability, but the PLP was the one who implemented the VAT. They implemented the VAT with some breaches in it. The VAT was not supposed to be implemented without a information technology system. That has not been implemented, which now opens the door for malfeasance and fraud. Okay, that is a big concern. Right now, everyone doesn't know exactly how much money is collected daily as of yesterday, just for yesterday alone. No one in the country, except for those who are VAT registered, and also maybe, because even inland revenue doesn't know until 90 days. Secondly, persons who are VAT collectors, they are able to keep the VAT collections for 90 days without having to disclose or submit the collections. And what I was told by an MP, a candidate, Ron Pinder, is that the people are able to use the monies to help their businesses. And what is frightening and what is very concerning and disheartening is we're living in a time when every year we see in government officials go into parliament, borrow money, but would write laws to allow private citizens to collect tax money for the Bahamian people, and allow them to keep the money for 90 days, but feel comfortable to go in parliament and borrow money, not knowing how much money was collected today for VAT, not knowing how much money was collected yesterday for VAT. How do we know that what is being reported by these VAT collectors. 15,000 people are collecting value-added tax daily. No one have a government-issued POS system that was mandated by the law, by the act. I have asked every government candidate, I've asked the FNM leaders, I've asked the PLP leaders, I've asked the coalition and the candidates, the independents, everybody said, listen to me. If you want true governance, if you're looking to really make a difference in this country, then stand with me on corruption. VAT, the value added tax, is one example that we can prove that the Bahamian people are being abused. I'm a business owner, and here's how far I went with this. As the business owner, I don't charge VAT, but I pay VAT. I purchase supplies locally that is VATed. When I charge my clients, I don't charge the cost what I paid with the VAT. I charge based on my total purchase cost plus my markup. And that's my margin to my clients. I absorb the 7%, 0.5, which was then, and I absorb the 12% now out of my profit. I feel that no merchant should have been passing VAT on to the clients, the customers, the retailers, unless the retailers like you and me and everyone who pays taxes was getting a refund. Right now, tax collectors get 100% refund, okay? How is it that you as a tax collector who's only collecting the money is getting 100% refund on your taxes that you pay at the wholesale level, but you and me who pay in taxes, we don't get no refund? And so I've been advocating for changes in the act, and also I've been advocating for leaders to stand with me so that we can fix that very simple issue and watch how we will see a reduction in the need for borrowing. This is the only administration, and it's saddening to know in the direction where we're going in, the fact that we have a plan to borrow. The government actually provided a policy or created a mandate that shows how they plan to borrow their way out of debt. And everybody know you cannot borrow your way out of debt, okay? And so I said to my Bahamian people, Mrs. Deidre, read the Value Added Tax Act for yourself. You can Google it. It's right online. Download it, read it, the full in its entirety, and you will be surprised how all of Rupert Roberts, and I have to say it because I'm disappointed because these are the rich people of the country. Menace is a VAT registered, owns businesses that are VAT registered and does not disclose the collections daily, nor does he submit the collections daily. Brave is a VAT registered business owner that does not disclose the VAT collections daily, nor does he submit the VAT collections daily and are allowed to use it for 90 days. Every parliamentarian right now, just about majority of them who in parliament right now are VAT registered businesses who do not report to the Bahamian people. That's why I don't collect VAT, because if I collected VAT, I would have been submitting VAT daily and providing an update to the Bahamian people daily on how much money was collected. See, the important thing of that is it allows us to make financial decisions. Our leaders are making financial decisions without understanding what is our true net. For example, the declarations. We'll get to that. And so I can be able to show you how we tie in the fact that if you come in every day and you tell me as a Bahamian who's a citizen.
Let's get into that. So let's talk about that.
So let's look at the declaration.
Hold on a second. One second. So as we look at controversy, what is your thoughts on controversy and overcoming controversy? So we were gonna get into that as it pertains to your declaration of your net, how much you earn, your income, and so let's talk about that. Go ahead.
So let's highlight some things that would put my declaration in perspective. We all as a nation, as a world, experience COVID, okay? And for the most part, during COVID, majority of the people was not working. The only person that had access to capital at the time was essential service providers, and also persons that when the country opened, who collected VAT. The government also allowed persons that collected VAT to keep the VAT collections daily. That's why on the financial statements for the country last year, expenditure reports, they had $0 for the VAT collection. Okay, y'all didn't see this, but I see this because after COVID, the government said to every VAT registered business that you could keep the money, so they could still borrow. Okay, that's a disadvantage. So now you have these persons who are using the VAT money, or these persons, for example, making these declarations, laughing at me. But during COVID, I was able to sustain myself at $2,500 monthly. Okay, from June of last year to June and August when I declared, I'm comfortably making $2,500, being paid $2,500 out of my business to cover my expenses at $2,440 a month. What that means? That means my light bill is my rent is paid, my water is on, my food in my house, my gas is paid, my rental is paid, my daughter's medical is paid, my daughter's school, everything she needs for school is taken care of. And at the end of the day, I am still left with $60. Okay, that I'm actually now going to be saving as of the end of this last month. I have $60 in savings. I don't have the $60, but my wife does the savings because I don't have a bank account. The reason
So
why
you made a declaration of $60.
No, I made a declaration that shows what they asked me. They said, Hanchell, what is your income statement? I showed my income, which was $2,500, and I showed my expenses monthly, which was $2,440, which leaves a monthly net of $60 plus. That's a surplus. I'm
So,
actually saving $60 a month
so
versus
how do you
having
feel
to
about the
borrow $60 a month.
response to it? How do you feel about
Um,
the response?
Initially, again, I don't have thin shoulders, so you could expect anything. $60. The average person generally didn't understand the fact that if you strip out my assets, if every person that declared during election move their assets, they would be majority of them would are actually in deficit. And for example, Halkidas. If you look at Halkida's declaration, he's paying mortgage and his income does not exceed his expenditures monthly. So if you take away his assets, he's actually borrowing money a month unless he has foreign accounts that were not declared. I don't have foreign accounts, but a lot of our politicians, we know that they probably have foreign accounts and they was not declared. So I can't say that the persons made honest declarations, but I can tell you what they asked me for. They say, Hanchel, what is your assets? I listed them. I have none. They say, Hanchel, what is your income statement? I say, this is what I make a month. This is what I pay myself a month. This is what my bills a month. This is what I live with. Okay. And that's what you see. So when you strip away the assets and you look at the income, you would find that I'm probably in the top 15 or 16 or 17 or 18 or 19 or 20 candidates that actually have a net income monthly. Okay. And so I'm bringing something different to Parliament. I'm bringing a strategy that can be applied to every other Bahamian living in Garden Hills that are looking to now move out of deficit because I no longer live in deficit. I may not have an accumulation of wealth that would be justifiable to persons to say I'm rich. So I'm not rich, but I'm not poor. Okay. Not many
Well,
people in
I
the
want to applaud you for your honesty because I know in sitting among persons and hearing different conversations, I know persons who would have looked and viewed the declarations and would have said, well, I know this person and this is not correct. There's some dishonesty somewhere. So I want to applaud you for being honest in declaring your honest, as you would have said, your honest declaration in terms of your net income and your net expenses. So I want to thank you. I will applaud you, for sharing that, being honest with the community.
I mean, if my wife, there's something I learned in my house a long time ago because I'm a married man. Happy married man. I try to live for God. I'm not perfect. Um, I don't work for nobody because the Bible says the wages of sin is death and the gift of God is eternal life. And if we as Christians understand what that means, The wages of sin is death. What do you call wages? Only employment calls your pay wages. COVID has shown just about
Mr.
every
Hanchell,
employee.
you're going too deep. Like, you're getting a little deep in that. Going too deep.
But COVID has showed everybody that you cannot depend only on your wages because that's debt. But the gift of God is eternal life. Now, what is the gift of God? My talent, my ability to wake up every morning and work for myself and trust in God and feed myself, as he said in his word, is the gift of God to live free in this country. I don't have to, I take days off when
Going
I
off
want.
the employee first tense now.
No,
You're
I'm
going
not,
a little deep there.
I'm not, and that's the same approach I took to Parliament because party structure is the employment. Well, what they did was they circumvent the political powers. So how it is an MP represents a group of people. That's who I represent. But what party did was they stripped the powers direct from the people and the representation, and they made a middle layer. Now you, as the overall people, vote this party in, but in actuality, the party only looks out for their private donors. They only look out for their supporters. They don't look out for the every behavior when they get in power. That's why I've been asking Brave. That's why I've been asking ministers. That's why I've been asking anyone vying for leadership. Let's have finance campaign, finance reform. I fund my own fencing roster and my wife funds my campaign. Okay? Who funds F&M? Based on me knowing who funds the F&M and looking at the decisions that the F&M made during their tenure over the last 4.5 years, I can tell you that they made decisions for their private donors outside of the average behavior because Minister said it himself in Parliament. He will be doing discriminatory actions towards Bahamians that is unconstitutional. From Minister said that Minister is supposed to be hit with treason. Okay? Because our job, my job as an MP, vying for the entry level to Parliament, because MP is entry level. $36,000 is an entry level career in private sector. So just like if I was vying for a job in the private sector to serve the people and be paid, before I get the job, the employers would have asked me whom are, in this case, the people would have asked me for my resume. Then secondly, they would have an interview with me as you're doing now to see if I have the capacity, do I have the heart, and do I have the all to succeed as an MP. Thirdly, the people would have put all the candidates together that are vying for this position or this job, because you are my employer. Gardner's is my employer, to debate, to provide our plans. And the person with the best or the strongest plans, I thought would have been the victor. But inside current and previous elections, we've always elected people because of the party. Because the party spent them. Look at this election. They spent all this money, FNMBLB spent all this money on banners and posters and signs. Before election was called, everybody didn't know who had money. The minute they call election, they spending on posters $9, which could buy 3 plates from the breakfast place in the Grove.
Well, I was scared because one way you left, you looked at the layout of the country, you left it one way, and then when you came back, there were banners and posters everywhere. So I'm like, okay, this is what we doing. And so you would have talked about us being party type of people. We more
Traditionally,
or less we go for the party.
yes. And so what I want the Bahamian people to understand, if they study our party was created to bring Black people together to take power from the white colonial masters. The Seminets and all these families would still rule the country. 1967 signified that there was a group of Black persons was able to form a body that was able to attract majority rule, which was predominantly the Black people that was disenfranchised and divided. Then the same party that said they was fighting for the empowerment and enrichment of all decided to become just like the oligarchs, the white people that they took from power from. You have all the Frankie Wilson and the Pendletons and all these man them. They only created a circle And the same people, as you know, the same family. Okay, right now you have Leslie Miller, daughter running in Parliament because they think Parliament is their own. It's not theirs. Parliament is for any Bahamian that's qualified and that's think that they can make a difference. Whether you rich, whether you poor, whether you black, whether you white. Public office is a mandate that you decide to come in and work for people. Minister them when fire themselves after before 5 years, then will come back and ask us to hire them to run the country. I don't understand what type of psychology minister them using. Brave, who was the deputy prime minister during the Christie administration, who saw corruption and act as if it did not exist. I told the Christie administration not to administer or implement value-added tax unless they had a true revenue-generated plan. I say, if you're going to increase the cost of living to every Bahamian by 7.5% and now 12%, you must keep in mind that you must increase every Bahamian revenue stream by 12%, not one time they income, but every time they spend. So you have to create a way to have Bahamians making money just as fast as how you spend money. What you find is Bahamians have a fixed income, but their expenses are not fixed. Our expenses are going up. Rupert Roberts, who collect our monies every day and don't tell us how much monies we make, can tell me that he can go up on my food. No, Rupert Roberts. I need you to tell me how you can keep costs of food down. I need you to tell me how you can increase demand. I need you to tell me how you can work the price equilibrium. I need you to tell me how you can start to encourage more Bahamians to create products that are able to sell in supermarket. I have friends that make bread, that have businesses that create products, and they have troubles trying to get their products in super value. So I said a super value. One, declare how much money you collect from the people value added tax daily and submit it daily. So our government don't have to borrow money. And if they have to borrow money, at least they know how much money they have to borrow instead of guessing how much money they have to borrow. Because who really know how much money that they really need based on fact? They don't even provide factual numbers. Because remember now, our budget borrowing is based on forecasted accounting. So they say they need 2 billion, but in actuality, do we really need 2 billion? Because we really don't know how much money they collect in every day on the VAT. And I have a problem with that. I have a strong problem with that. And I said to my Bahamian people, right now up to this day, Mrs. Deidre, no political party, no candidate has said that they will support me in trying to now expose the corruption and the loopholes and the issues in our financial sector of our country. I've spoken to Marlon Johnson privately, countless emails. He has failed to respond. I have made communications online publicly to express my disheartenment and my displeasure, and he has continued to laugh at me because he knows I'm poor. Marlon Johnson continues to keep me silent, along with a few others like Mark Turnquist, because of my revolutionary thinking and my innovation thinking. Okay? Marlon Johnson prefers me to make $50 an hour from being paid by SPDC as a consultant versus saving the country money. He rather me cost the country money. You know how much money is costing the country on SPDC just off consultancy fees? I've been asking for
Break down that acronym. What does the acronym stand for?
So SPDC is Small Business Development Centers. This is the government agency. Okay. I walked out of the training from SPDC and I told Marlon Johnson to not pay that foreigner to teach me what I could teach my Bahamian people. I walked out the training. If you investigate that, he probably still, the foreigner still walk away with the $3,000-4,000 that was set aside for my training that I walked out of that I never took. Okay. I said to Marlon Johnson that the business model that SPDC is running is not helping the country, but it's hurting the country. You have people like Ben Albury, or whatever he named from ORG or whatever that responsible governance. They are the people on these committees, the ERC committees. If you look at every committee for financial services or supposed to be creating plans for the country, they keep electing the same people to create economic plans for us, and they continue to fail. Marlon Johnson chaired every committee that was created in COVID. Marlon Johnson and the same people that was chairing the same committees that was failing in the PLP era, that was failing in the FNM era, they continue to hire these same people, pay them. Okay. The other day I was reading of a scandal with Tanya Adeli, who I worked with in government as a consultant. These people get away with millions of dollars, Deidre, and do not pass. Smita, Mark Turnquest, Tomiko Bryce, Dawn Demerit, Dawn Gray, Janica DeVoe, Tanya Adeli, Simon Wilson. This was the team. We was hired for two components. I worked on the first component and made sure that it was successful. After we were successful with this first component for SMETA, which was the consultant and the assessment component, I was booted off of the group because now the second component, the group was advancing to about some $25 million that they was going to access. I had a problem with this because the group failed. Halkilis was unable to use the small development, the small medium enterprise development agency plan that was paid by the country treasury to have these consultants prepare, that was unable to use, and they had to then go and seek assistance from the OAS. That's how come they came up with these small business development centers. Money was done spent, plans was failed, money unaccounted for. Tonya Adderley and Don Demer, Don Gray, who was the project coordinators, moved their office to Balmoral. Don Gray buy a whole BMW. Everybody had this grand life. And I asked Mark Turnquest. Then Peter Turnquest them came back in power, and then asked Merritt Starr, who wrote the SME Act in 2011 for $1 million, to write the same act again for $1 million. Then during the PLP era, I watched the NDP with Kalish Roll paid $1 million to help them write a plan that never was passed. And then Gordon Bowe just recently asked them about the NDP plan, the National Development Plan, and why is that not implemented? These governments are spending millions of dollars of taxpayers' money, mismanaging it, as you see now with COVID and the pandemic and Dorian, and now you have these international bodies asking our government to be held accountable and to provide track records of what they spent, and they cannot produce not one record. And we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars every year. We're not talking about the VAT money that's getting collected every day that we as Bahamian people paying and don't even know how much money we collect yesterday. My Bahamian people, you cannot elect a government or people in power who continuously cover up corruption. In my mind, I've not heard no candidate talk about and join me in the VAT discussion. And so in my mind, I feel that they're all a part of covering up. And that's why I've been asking the Bahamian people to join in with me to ask for campaign finance reform. Find out who are these campaign donors. You'd be surprised who's funding and how many of the same people are funding the Bahamas. I was told that the Coalition of Independence was given $500,000 to campaign with. Okay? That's only just probably one donation. But did they talk?
When you brought up campaign, so let's talk about campaign. I want to thank you for sharing that insight. Before we do, I want to recognize Miss Vivian Pitter from Jamaica. So Miss Pitter, you're from Jamaica. I want to welcome you and thank you for listening in, always listening in. And just let you know that the Bahamas has election fever. So our elections is on September 16th. So we're on election fever right now. We're in election mode. But she wanted to say hello to myself and our guest. So, Mr. Hanchell, thank you for...
Hello Jamaica. I love Jamaica. You know, and so, listen, I had friends. I went to the U.S. I went to International Division I school. My school played in Popeye Bowl in 2016. When my school called me in Christmas that the school was coming over, I went to Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture and asked the director of youth, who was at the time Darren Turnquest, and also those in office, well, why all didn't let me know that my school was coming in to the Bahamas? I had to introduce Danny Johnson to the coach from Eastern Michigan University. They invited me to talk to the entire football team, staff, and executive the day before the game. They invited me to run out on ESPN where I only could wear Adidas outfit. Okay. So I tell my Bahamian people, you all have to treat me with love, but the world love me. And I want the Bahamian people to know that the world love every Bahamian. Because when I go foreign, my wife could tell you, I get treated like a king. When I was in foreign in school, I competed with people from all over the world. I can remember my first year in school when I had my literature lecture, and we had over 300 people in our literature first our lecture class. Okay, this was my freshman year. I was the only person of the entire class invited to speak to the class and introduce myself because I was from the Bahamas. When my professor, Miss Heather Neff, I can never forget her name. When Miss Neff found out that I was from the Bahamas, the next day she called me down in front of a class of 300 people and tell me, I need you to tell them where you from. Yeah, they say to you.
Awesome. You've done some awesome stuff. And
No.
I stand with you. I stand with you when you say sometimes you're not appreciated in your own country, and sometimes you have to step outside and look outside because we're in a great big world. You have to step outside to develop yourself, and that's why we have this platform. This is an all inclusive platform. So we have persons from different countries. We have persons from different countries in the Caribbean. We're all inclusive.
But
So
you heard me
it's not
say?
just the Bahamas.
Let me add that. You heard you say, that's why I say by trading for me is very important because I want to trade with Jamaica. I have people in Haiti. I have friends in Haiti I want to trade with. Okay. I have friends in Europe. I have friends in Asia. I have friends in North America. I have friends in South America. They own businesses. We're talking about graduate university level persons who after 15 years have created their careers and started their families. People ask me, Hanchell, why member of parliament and not private? Because parliamentarians or member of parliaments are paid to create opportunities for the constituency. Why should I spend my money, which is not bad, to create practices and opportunities for constituency if you elect a candidate or MP who ain't doing nothing? Think about it. You know, we elect ministers to lead our country. What have ministers done when it relates to creating wealth for Bahamians? Ministers, you know what ministers did to me? Ministers closed the park on me. That's what ministers did to me. You know what ministers did to me? Ministers told his secretary, Ms. Marsh, who was in the next room, that he could not meet with Bahamians who was trying to now put on a South Fest. You know what the purpose of the South Fest? Was to teach the world how to eat chicken sauce or how to make chicken sauce, which is indigenous to the Bahamas, and give them a product, Johnny Cake, to make. Because we had a product called Johnny Cake out of the box, Mommy's Johnny Cake. And we wanted to now teach the world how to make chicken sauce so they could then buy a Johnny Cake and bake Johnny Cake with their chicken sauce. Minutes decline. Okay, minutes. My sister was trying to set up meetings with minutes for an entire year because I voted in Kalani. Okay, I'm registered in Kalani. Okay, and I voted in Kalani for minutes. And Minis refused to meet with me in his community office and also at his prime minister office to this day. Okay, I have pictures with Minis. Okay, when Minis was vying for back in 2009 when I used to throw shows at COB because I used to invest in I used to throw shows for Bahamian artists and I have pictures with the show where I took groups of Bahamian artists into COB every Thursday. And we put on shows for the campus for no cost. Okay. And I have pictures with Menace when he visited the campus at the time I was speaking at the campus. And so I want my Bahamian people to know that we cannot vote for persons because of party, and because of likability. We need to vote for persons because they have a plan that they can clearly articulate, that you can follow, that is feasible and viable, and that can be implemented from day one, not day 30, not 4 years later, but from day one. I used to work for the Bahamian people and specifically Garden Hills. I tell people in Garden Hills that they can expect more people to move into Garden Hills once I take leadership because people looking for opportunities. Because if
Well,
they
that's
can,
a huge statement, but let's get into
yeah,
that. That's a huge statement. Let's get into that. So you talk about yourself. So let's talk about yourself. Since you put yourself forward to represent your respective constituency of Garden Hills, what is one thing that you want your possible constituents to know about you or your campaign?
I want them to know that wealth, there's two ways that we can create wealth. That's one. You inherit wealth or you work or you pool wealth. Everyone who get a dollar, because like I tell my mother and my sisters and my brothers and my wife, there are two ways you can become a millionaire. You can get $1 million. One person can give you $1 million, or you can get 1 million people give you $1. That's the power of crowdfunding. So when people, I don't want gardeners to rate me or judge me off of my current financial status, because that does not determine or dictate my wealth of my mind. But I want gardeners to know that it was intentional, that I did not accumulate mass amount of wealth. I could not, because I was always blacklisted in this country. After the political atmosphere realized my stance and who I truly was for, they blacklisted me. That's why I got into fencing, because fencing was the only thing that I was able to now pursue. I wasn't paid to do no more plans. I wasn't paid to do no more seminars. And because I didn't take the deal with Marlon Johnson for the $50 an hour, I had to close my company down. I used to get paid $75 an hour for consultancy work. Yeah, I said it. How many Bahamians could say to them right now that they get paid $75 an hour? I used to get paid $300 for a basic business plan, up to $2,500 for business plans. I stopped writing business plans. My last business plan I wrote, I was paid $2,500 by SBDC, but they failed to pay me in debt financing the $30,000 that was owed to me by a client because of their issues they had with me. And so then they forced the client to cancel my contract and put his lawyers on me, who is Alfred Sayers. Alfred Sayers is a lawyer who allowed his client to falsely accuse me of doing wrong, knowing I did not do wrong, knowing that he saw me with this client countless times working without being paid, and they allowed the client and the government to abuse me and want me to support them. So I tell my Bahamian people, I do not support a PLP government, and I do not support a FNM government, okay? I do not support party politics. What I support is my Bahamian people to elect the right person for the job within their constituency, not because the party spending the most money on liquor. And thank God, Mrs. Deidre, that we are in a season of atonement and that we're having our election on a spiritual time, that we are now, and that we're having it during an emergency order where people are not going to be intoxicated when they vote, that we're actually going to have sober-minded Bahamians voting in this general election. Hallelujah. Okay, God is now opening up some doors, Mrs. Deidre. And so I stand alone to people physically, but I tell people I am not alone because I want to have God on my side, who has been able to inspire me and incite me the knowledge that I need to maneuver in a time when you need money to maneuver. And so I tell people, the only person that can beat money is the person with the brains. Money is pay people with brains to do work for them. So what you think will happen when people find out that Hanchell have a brain? The rich people who have a plan coming to me to pay me for a plan, because that's what God give you, a brain. So if you want to try out money, you have to have a brain. But people who have a brain and look into money for solutions is what we keep getting. Rich politicians who can't use their own money or money that they have access to create wealth for a small group of people, 400 people, 400,000. You have more millionaires in North America alone. You have 10 millionaires to every one Bahamian. You hear what I say? You have 10 millionaires to every one Bahamian in North America. So if the government really wanted to push and to empower and to enrich Bahamians, every Bahamian should have had a business plan, an
I want to
approved
thank you.
government business plan.
I want to thank you for sharing those points. And so, as we wind down and as we close out this session, is there any additional comments that you would like to make?
Um, you know what I want to say, Mrs. Deidre, I wanna just take a step back and I want to say thank you to you. Okay, because your initial interview was thought. It wasn't planned. It was however made your decision, knowing what was being said or what was the atmosphere about me taking the risk to put me on to be able to express myself. Okay, I want to say thank you to you. I want to say thank you to all the Bahamian people that now support me and that has now continued to voice their support for me because that is what I need. And and I have to say thank you to my wife and my children. Okay, because the other day when I first break my declaration, my oldest daughter called me. She's 16. She doesn't live with me. She lives with her mom. My first two children lives with their mom. And my oldest daughter said it was like about 12 o'clock. And she said, Daddy, she wrote me a letter. And she said, Daddy, I was surfing the internet and I came across a post, a very mean post about you. And I was so hurt that Bahamians could be so mean. This is my 16-year-old girl. She said, Daddy, I want to let you know that you was my star. Okay? You was a great daddy. I love you. You were smart. You've been fighting for the Bahamian people from my time I was born. You ain't never changed. You was my inspiration. You was my motivation. Miss Deidre, that made me smile. That made me cry. Okay? Because people call me a deadbeat dad. People call me a weightless father because of my financial struggles. People before they build me up, they rather break me down. I live a hard life. Okay.
That is one of the most saddest. I'm sorry I have to interject, but that is one of the most saddest trait, or I don't even know what to say, characteristic within our country, that we prefer to tear people down before we lift them up. That is one of the most saddest traits
But you
in
talk
this
about
country.
overcoming. You talk about overcoming. See, overcoming starts with your mind. You have to see yourself in the MPC channel, Mrs. Deidre. I saw myself in MPC, and there's something that I learned in university, what Obama taught me, that I was in university during his tenure. If you want to be popular, if you want to be a public figure in America, you better know what you do in the past. You have to walk circumspectly. You have to guide your walk. Because what you do yesterday comes back and haunts you today. Look at what's happening now with all these politicians and candidates. They think they passed was a secret. No, that's why I talk my business, Deidre, because people could see that I'm an open book. That's why so whatever they talk with me, I hope they talk as a family man. I hope they talk as a God-fearing man. I hope they talk that as a good husband. I hope they talk that as a good brother, cousin, uncle, whatever, friend. But I don't like evil. Okay? I don't like evil because for too long, evil men rule. And the Bible says when evil men rule, poverty exists. Deidre, our economy is poverty. 60%, 50 plus 1% of our people are living in poverty. Come on. It's because of our evil leaders. Now it's time for righteousness, and not in words, but in actions. I have to live righteousness so I can lead in righteousness.
I hear you make. I want to interject. I hear you make that statement, but we also have to have some type of accountability as well, in that the power still belongs to the people. And when you look at our system of governance, we continue to put the same people back in. And so, if you get the same results, then those are the same results that you want. Because if you know what you're going to get, you continue to get the same results, and you continue to bring those same people in, you get what you want.
Exactly. So I asked the Bahamian people who feel I'm not qualified, who feel I'm broke, I'm not rich enough, is to say, how many times have the average politician that is continuously elected been in power, and after 50 years, Hanchell just talking about constituency-owned banks? We just talking about university programs at the constituency level. We just talking about trading with Haiti and Jamaica and Barbados and America and Canada. We just talk about digital and renewable energy. We just talking about ownership and like I told someone from the University of Bahamas, I would have never gone with a Bahama in 2022 because B&Bs have opened the door for direct income creation for Bahamians. There are too many Bahamians that have property that could build dwellings for persons who want to visit the Bahamas can live in. That's what I want to do in Garden Hills. I don't want to build mega structures and mega hotels. I want to take every room. So picture every room in Atlantis or every room in Bahama is owned by a Bahamian and they get that income what is made from that room. Not Bahama who don't pay taxes, not Bahama who get concessions, not Bahama who get exemptions, not Bahama who get $4 million of marketing of Bahamian taxes to market Bahama, but you have people out at Awaki crying for assistance. Let me show you how powerful this is and why I'm running, Mrs. Deidre. During the COVID, everybody got financially depressed. I applied to the Bahamas Development Bank. I rent a car weekly. I applied to the development bank and said to them that the amount of money is that I'm renting a car a month, I could pay financing on a car if they work with me. Okay. I said on top of paying the rental fee, I'm also paying gas. So when you accumulate all this money and running my business and running my personal life, I'm paying well over $1,000 a month on fuel and rental, right? When the electric company on Gladstone Road, one, they did not want to work with me with direct financing. And then I was denied by Bahamas Development Bank, which took almost 8 months. I wrote them in October and I never got a response until February after I called upset. And then they denied me. I challenged the denial with the person in charge and they still deny me. Now I just saw a communication where the same people who I was trying to do what I was trying to do with the bank and the car company doing it direct. This is what they do. They take your vision, they take your ideas, they take your suggestions, they take your plans, and they use it, and then they cut you out, and then they give it to who they will give it to. I am tired of this. That's why I tell Garden Hills, I go in foreign, and I can link up with a foreign electric car company, and we can import these cars, and I can make sure every person in Garden Hills have an electric car. I'm tired of Bahamians who continuously abuse us, who could help us, and because of our financial status, and because of who we are, our background, and because of where we come from, they only getting certain people rich, and the rest are supposed to remain poor to work for them. I'm not working for them no more, and I'm not having gardeners work for them. Gardeners is going to work for themselves, and if we need employees, I rather import employees. But every Bahamian and gardener is going to be owning a business, whether they directly work in a business or they buy into a business and they getting shares, dividend checks. And we going digital with our banking.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today. As we close out the session, I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing all of those points with us. And I also want to thank you for thanking me as well. You would have been someone who would have made some comments on our flyer, so we had to incorporate you somehow. So I want to thank you.
No, you go in places, Ms. Deidre. You go in places because I always tell you, the world wants us. It's just that our leaders does not sell the people the right way. They have us as servants.
You don't have to depend on those people. You look outside. You outsource. And if you're that type of person, if you are looking towards other people to open doors for you, and you can't create your own platform, then you're gonna be in trouble. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're not connected to those certain families, or if you're not connected to certain networks, the door is not going to be open for you. And so what happens then?
That's what I want to break. And I thank God for using me in this day and time as an example for young men like myself, young women like yourself, who could see my story as an inspiration and know that you don't have to be financially wealthy or rich to be, put yourself in a position to change. I didn't borrow the money. I wait for that money and I put my name on the ballot. Okay. I don't borrow money. I borrow my campaign money. I wait, and whatever monies my wife gets, she saved and she invested back in me. Okay, that's what we do. We don't owe nobody, and so we don't
But
want
as you,
persons to be deceived.
sorry, go ahead. But
That's it.
as you would have mentioned, you talked about the flip side of it, your teenager having to surf the net and see that information about you. And I think that's the downside of persons who may be interested, persons with bright minds, bright ideas, who may be, because we have the same ideas cycling, okay? We have the same ideas that are cycling over and over. We need new ideas of how we're going to
Please.
progress as a nation.
Yes.
So you may have people who may be interested in putting themselves forward, but when they see how our candidates are treated and how sometimes your name can be dragged through the mud,
That's what it was.
they
$60.
decide to stay in the background.
But let me just show them how God works with the $60. In my honesty, somebody decided to think that it was funny to try to make it comical. But in comical, person saw they then push it. So even if they wasn't supposed to get the response that they got from the initial reason why they did it, God turned it around and used it to my favor.
Yeah, because I also saw persons defending. I also saw persons defending you.
A lot of
in your
people.
declaration. Yeah. And so, sometimes there are bad things that happen that kind of work out for your good in the end. And sometimes, bad publicity can sometimes turn to good publicity. And so I want to thank you for sharing that. And again, I wanted to reiterate, and also, one of the main reasons for me as well in creating this platform is to, let people know that, listen, our Bahamian people are intelligent. We have intelligent, young Bahamian people out there with bright minds and bright ideas. But again, they're not going to be attracted to putting themselves forward if they're going to be turned down and ripped to shreds. That's not going to happen. Okay? I want to thank you for putting yourself forward, putting yourself in the firing line and being honest with your declarations. Because again, as I would have mentioned to you, I've been in conversations, not necessarily conversations, but I've overheard persons saying, you know what? They look at the declaration and say, that don't look right. This person don't look right. That don't look right. So I want to thank you for being honest in your declaration, and I'll let you have the final word. Go ahead.
They didn't declare for foreign accounts. Every MP, every candidate supposed to say if they have foreign accounts, and if they have foreign accounts, how much money is in these foreign accounts. We playing in this country, and so when you talk about reform, the only way I could make a difference is in Parliament. I can't create reform from outside. I can't create reform from depending on somebody to do it for me. I gotta go in and work with the people outside and those inside to make sure we tailor and we cater to Bahamians first and then the foreigners. But I've seen too many foreigners come here, get rich, and the Bahamian people get overlooked, and that has to stop in my lifetime. Thank you.
Mr. Hanchell, thank you for joining us today. I see. Thank you for joining us, Nelson Brennan. I don't know. Let me just. I don't know which particular part of the message you're saying is true. I don't know if you want to indicate that in the comments before we close. I don't know which part you're referring to, Mr. Brennan. Anyway, if he comes back in the comments, I will. Let me just.
You can always go back and answer any questions or questions. So when you want them to be honest,
yeah, you can always go back to the video and answer questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So people could be honest, whatever they ask, whatever they hear, whatever they want to know. I would ask them. I'd answer them, because at the end of the day, the reason why I pimp on the people in Parliament is because they see they done rich. That's why I pimp on them. That's why I pimp on Hakeem them and all them rich boys, Mark Turnquist them and thing. They done rich.
But I don't think you have to pimp. Listen, you don't have to pimp on every. You don't have to pimp on nobody, because at the end of the day, like they say, what is done in the dark will be exposed, it will be revealed in the light. So exposure is everything, you know what I mean? So like you said, you learned when you were in a different environment that you tread lightly because these things are going to come back to you. So there's no need to expose persons because sometimes they end up exposing themselves.
Well,
And
thank
so
God for that. You see?
exactly,
So I hope to be
exactly.
that. I mean, I pray, I ask God, and I did all I can, and I'm comfortable. I'm happy with my progress, and I just leave it to the voters. And I thank you for this exposure. Like I say, who knows? This video might get 50,000. I know me and my wife have plans to sponsor this video, and so we'll continue to support your program and any little thing that you need us for, even if it's donations. If we could afford to help in any little way, we can. That's why I didn't I give money away every day. Every day, my wife would tell you. Every day, I give her money. I don't count. I stop counting. She stopped counting. She don't. And we work for ourselves. My little girl homeschooled, so I've been the breadwinner for years, almost over 10 years in my family life. You know what I mean? And so I just continue pushing. Me and my wife have a tremendous future. She's getting ready to relaunch her business, rebrand her business, and so we're looking for perfect. I guarantee that every Bahamian and Gardner's in 2022, July 10th, is going to get a dividends check from the assets that we own in Gardner's. I can promise them that.
Well, I want to congratulate you and your wife. And I also want to thank you for supporting us. And I just want you to be available when we do our sessions, okay?
Yes,
Don't go
ma'am.
all over the place and you go
No,
to
I
this
can
one and
get
that
too
one.
rich and
You just
forgettable.
just
I
be
pull them up.
available. That's it. Okay?
I pull them up with me. You good. You good people. And I want to say sorry to anybody that I ever offended in the past. Going forward, you can expect that from Hanchell, man. I want y'all now that y'all know who I is to be acceptable and receiving me, and so we can work together and fix our country, man. I don't want to be blacklisted anymore. I want to contribute. I want to be paid fairly like everybody else, but I want to be utilized to help my Bahamian people.
And so, with that, we have come to the end of our session. I want to thank our guest today, Kareem Hanchell, independent candidate for Garden Hills. Congratulations on your campaign, and we look forward to seeing the results of it. September 16th is our general election. So, thank you for putting yourself forward. Putting yourself forward is not an easy thing. It is
That's I
definitely
am
not.
independent.
But,
That's
but
what
so
that
with
means.
these symbols, I see you putting up
That,
some
that,
symbols. With these
that means
symbols,
I am independent. This when I do it like this, and if I see you do this, that means I am independent. This is I in sign language.
awesome, awesome. Yes, yes. And I have a session on the 24th that is going to be talking about sign language. Yes, yes,
So when you
yes, yes.
so when you see them,
Talking about
I
sign
want you to
language
do this.
awareness. Yes.
I want you to say I am independent. That's what that means in sign language. So when you see
Awesome.
me, this is what we do now.
Can you do the whole word? Sign language.
That's it right there. I am independent. That's it right there.
Awesome.
I am
Awesome.
independent. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff.
So
So
see you
you
later.
you
Thank you again. Love
you
you
even
all.
got the sign language down pat.
Yes.
So I want to thank you for joining in our session. Thank our guest, Kareem Hanchell, independent candidate for Garden Hills. And I want to thank our viewers for listening in. Like our page for future notifications of upcoming talks. Comment under our videos. Let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know what you think about this session today. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Can We Talk? Follow us on Instagram and Twitter using the addresses provided on our page. Kareem Hanchell, do you have a page you want to share with
Just Kareem Hanchell and Fencing Rasta. They can get all our information on Fencing Rasta. That's FENCING Rasta RASTA. And my personal page, Kareem Hanchell. That's KAREEM Hanchell HANCHELL. I will be opening up a Facebook page for my member of parliament if I win. Once I win, and then person will be able to streamline. We'll be doing a lot of we will not be we'll be moving away from traditional um, community offices, but we'll actually be
Yeah, you
coming.
talked about digitalization, and
Yeah,
that's an excellent thing. You're trying to
yeah,
move us into the 21st century. That's
yeah,
progress. And
yeah.
so thank you for
Love
that.
you all, and out
And
there.
thank you for joining me today.
Yes, ma'am. God
And
bless.
good evening.
Amen.